thank you both for coming and joining us for the Neerim District History and Heritage Group, an interview that we're doing, Dr. John and Dr. Jill. I wonder if we could start by you telling us your names, dates of birth, and where you were born. Dr. Jill.
Yeah, well, I was born Jill Rosenblatt and born in Hamilton in Victoria. Yeah.
And Dr. John?
Well, I'm John, of course. I was born very close to Jill. We're only born 20 miles apart from the same area. I'm from a place called Coleraine, which is near Hamilton, and I was born in 1936.
And that's a small town, small country town, is it Hamilton and
Coleraine.
Yeah.
Hamilton's bigger, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it had residential colleges for students, so it was quite a developed town. Boomed in the wool industry in the 40s and 50s.
And so growing up there, you had siblings, both of you? You had family,
yes,
your parents and your family?
I'm the middle of 7.
Oh, wow.
3 older sisters, 3 younger brothers.
Oh, nice. And your parents' names?
Claudia and Herbert. He was the Lutheran minister at Hamilton. So we were there for 10.5 years, and then we moved.
And from Hamilton, where did you go?
Actually to an Aboriginal mission, 500 miles west of Adelaide.
Oh, wow.
The other side of Ceduna.
So at that time, were you the only white people there, or were there other families there?
The farmers, no, the school teachers, people who ran a children's home, the nurses who came to a little hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that would have been an interesting experience.
Yeah. Yeah. But we were the only white kids at the school. We went to school with the Aboriginal kids.
Yeah. And Dr. John, your growing up period in...
Well, I grew up in a very small country town. My parents and the whole community were farmers. It was a beautiful place to grow up. It was a very interesting social setup, and we had very good education. We had the school was taught by the Sisters St Joseph, who were brilliant teachers, so we were very lucky to get that start. Then I went to Hamilton High for high school, and I was at school with Jill's sisters, so I knew the family very well. And then I went to teach at a place called Rainbow, and I met up with the Rosenblatt family again. And then later on I went to university, and who should I run into doing medicine but Jill, who I knew by then, and knew what a great family they were.
Yeah.
So eventually we got together.
And so you were teaching first?
Yes.
You went to university to teach?
I had a degree in science,
Yep.
and then in education, and I was a science maths teacher for starting off, and after 3 years sitting up in a little bush town in Rainbow, I thought this was time to move, so I put in to study medicine.
Yep.
And Monash University, who had just started, accepted me as a student.
And so your family was in farming, so it wasn't a tradition for medicine to be medicine.
And Jules was in saving souls.
Yes. And I'm really interested to know how you got into medicine, particularly because in that time it wouldn't have been a very female-dominated industry.
No, well, of about 180 students, we were 27 girls. But I'd always wanted to be a doctor.
Yeah.
From about the age of 3. My mum had been a nurse. My 2 sisters did nursing.
Yeah.
My mum's sister did nursing. So there was that feel about it,
connection.
and that feeling of wanting to do medicine just stayed with me, and I was very fortunate. To do most of my education at Rainbow, 120 kids. I was very fortunate to get through the hoops.
Did you feel like there was opposition to you becoming a doctor? Did anybody say, "Oh, just go and be a nurse"?
Well, my sister's a bit. You know, you would always be tired.
Yeah.
But no, not strong opposition.
No.
Not strong.
It was good that you were encouraged and that you went ahead and followed your dream.
When we were at the Aboriginal mission, 2 women doctors ran the hospital at Sejuna, and one of them did the flying doctor service. So we had the flying doctor come to our mission.
Yeah.
And that was just part of what we knew.
Yeah.
So we admired them and what they did.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
Well, certainly leading the way for other women behind you as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you feel like you were a pioneer in that regard, or?
No, not really. You know, you just felt you had to do a job, and that's what you did.
And I think it makes a difference too. I think when your family is encouraging, you don't see it as it being any obstacles to what you want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So you've both met at university, and you're doing medical. So did you think, oh, this is a great opportunity to have a joint practice somewhere?
Not necessarily.
Not then, no, not at the time.
So where did you first start your practice after you finished university?
Oh, we went into the hospitals, of course, and worked in the hospitals for a while. And I was a surgical registrar at Bendigo. After we got married, we moved to Bendigo. Both worked in the hospitals there. And I was doing surgery and Jill was doing anaesthetics. So we had complementary skills and training. And then we decided that everyone thought I was going to do surgery, but I wanted to be a country doctor.
Okay.
And so it happened that my wife wanted to be a country doctor too. So this is how we finished up at Neerim South.
Yeah.
It was a very interesting area or era before we came to Neerim South. We'd actually signed up to practice in cows, and that was on the cards, and then they rang and said it's off, because they wanted someone to buy the house, and we didn't want to buy the house. It was a rambly old house. So that fell through, and then we had to look around. We went to Lakes Entrance and looked at a practice up there, which was keen to get near the water, of course.
Yeah.
And when we got there, there was an incredible crowd of people wanting to interview us from all sorts of places. And it was not a good setup. And on the way home to Melbourne, we heard about Neerim South, and we popped in here to Neerim South to have a look at the place, and we fell in love with it straight away. And then we were interviewed, and there was a committee led by Roy Clark, but the main interviewer was a character called John Del Zoppo. He was very, very impressive. And I think it was his attitude that sort of swayed us, where we thought, this place has got something going for it. People know what they're doing. So having looked at many other places, we decided to come here.
Did you have a family at this time? Had you had children?
Yes,
I had 2 children.
So you could see that there were schools and all that sort of thing as well for them.
And a brand new hospital was 1 year old. And it had a brand new anaesthetic machine that I was used to. So quite a lot of things just fell totally into place.
Yeah. So you decided to take up the position, thanks Mr. Dozoppo.
The committee were very impressive, and yes, we thought this is where we'd like to go.
Yeah.
And I got a phone call when I was working at the hospital that says, "I am delighted." And I thought, well, who's this person? And it turned out to be John Dozoppo, so I thought we were on a good wicket.
Yeah.
So we came and we didn't regret it.
No. So you moved in, the practice was up the hill a little bit.
It was.
In a rambling old house. I recall vaguely.
It was a rambling old practice.
Yeah.
But it was functional.
Yeah.
But we did most of our practice at the hospital.
Okay.
In the accident and emergency department. And that was very well run. The matron, Jean Tilley, was outstanding.
Yep.
It was a very good setup.
Yeah. And you did clinics as well through the week at New G, or?
We did do clinics. We had it here. The two of us were sitting around wondering what to do because it was very quiet.
Mm.
And then we got a deputation from Druin. Would you come and set up a branch practice in Druin?
Okay.
And we decided to do that. And someone turned up from New G. Would you set up a branch practice there? And we thought, okay, we'll go up there once a week.
Yeah.
And so we were kept busy.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting. And the people were lovely people.
So how were you welcomed to town? How did you feel when you first came to town? What did the people do to make you feel welcome?
The people were terrific. We met some wonderful people, and we knew a few people before we came here. So it was just very comfortable being here.
Mm. And what do you remember as being, I guess, the most interesting things that happened while you were here? It's kind of, it's different these days, I guess, where a general practitioner but doesn't do the surgery and that sort of things, but you were doing everything. You were doing what happened in the hospitals as well.
We did whatever we could. We shared it. Jill did most of the obstetrics and anaesthetics, and I did the surgery.
Yeah.
And we were able to do a lot of reasonably sophisticated surgery, and particularly we could cope with emergencies because the crew we had at the hospital were very good, particularly the two senior people.
What do you remember, what are some of the stories that you remember that you like to recount when you're talking about Newham South? Maybe not just in the medical field, but generally.
I've written a book on it, actually, but I've had to be very discreet about what I wrote in the book. But there are some fascinating stories, really. And the high drama of the emergencies was very interesting. Mm. And we had a very interesting character who worked up the hill called Maxie Green. And there's some very interesting stories there. Yeah,
well, he worked with some machinery, I guess, so I can only imagine what might have happened.
Well, one morning we got called to the hospital. There was some poor fellow, young bloke, with severe injuries, and the story was, he said, I was driving along and a horse came through the windscreen. And it was dark, and I thought, this is extraordinary. How could a horse appear in a car like that? And then I put two and two together, and I thought, well, Maxie must have been rounding up his horse to slaughter him.
Yeah.
But Maxie, of course, would not admit to it when the police went there. So we worked out that this horse came into the car and this poor bloke was badly injured. But that was just one story.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting stories.
Oh, we'll have to wait for the book. Is it out yet? Almost.
Oh, it's been out a long
time. Oh, has it? Oh, okay. Oh, apologies. I should have read it before you. And so, how long were you here at Newham South for?
9 years.
9 years.
Yes.
And how do you think you left the practice from when it started to when you left? What changes did you see?
Oh, it changed a lot. It was very run down when we came here, and became busy, and we felt it was time to go. I'd been wooed by Monash University to take up an appointment, and the children were ready to move on to secondary education. So then Liz and Steve turned up, and there was a big interest. There was always a single doctor here, but there was an interest in having a doctor-wife partnership. So Liz and Steve seemed to fit that mould very well.
For sure.
And they were educated at a great university, which was Monash. Jill was at Melbourne University.
You certainly left it in good hands.
Well, I hope so.
So what drew you back to lecturing, or what was that? What was it about that was attractive to you?
Well, I had degrees in education. I'd been a teacher. So Monash University, I remember the professor from Monash, he came screaming up the driveway and he says, "We want you down at Monash." I said, "When?" "Now." I said, "No way, I'm not going to leave here." So I gradually phased in down there. But I was very interested in education, and I had an appointment as a senior lecturer when I was here, and we had a teaching practice here. Monash set up a teaching practice, which was pretty small compared with what Liz and Steve have now. But anyway, we had students here.
And what was your idea of going back to the big smoke? Did you, because you've been from
we certainly miss this place so much. I mean, when I drive home from the hospital, so about a kilometre, you'd be doing this to friends all the way and down the aisles of the supermarket, and you know, we just miss that community, the community spirit.
And did you continue on with the practice in Melbourne, or?
Yes, I applied and got into a practice, and it turned out to be a very fortunate place for me. I was there 39 years.
Wow.
So I did a few other things as well, but that was my main backstop, and that was great.
Well, and I understand, Dr. John, that you saw a little gap in the book market, that there should have been a book about general practice, and you wrote a book that's become internationally famous. Could you tell us what inspired you to do that? And
well, when I went to Melbourne, people from the College of GPs says, we know you have skills in teaching and writing. We want you to be the editor of the college journal. So I took on a role writing for the college journal, and there was a publisher from where was he? He was in Oxford. He saw what was being written. He came to me and he says, "I want you to write a textbook." And I said I wouldn't have the temerity to write a textbook. But after 3 years of nagging, I decided I'd do it. And the textbook was different because it was written in terms of symptoms. Like if someone came in with tiredness, we'd have a section on that, or with pain in the stomach and so forth. It was meant to be a different textbook. So we went down that track, helped by Jill, and put those all together, these chapters, and it went to America, who published it, and they said, "This is rubbish. We don't think like that. We think of hearts and lungs. We don't think of people coming in with a problem," which is what they do come in with. And eventually Sydney, this fellow in Sydney, decided to go with it. And it's taken off. It's done very well because, as Steve was saying this morning, it's written fairly simply. It's not complex. So the people from overseas coming here, the internationally trained doctors, can follow it. So it's done very well. It's now in 14 languages.
That's amazing. You would never have expected
Never,
that.
no.
But there must have been a gap in them. I mean, now I guess things are different now with computers. You could just key in the symptoms, but then you really had to do some research, didn't you?
Oh, yes.
And for there to be a book that said, well, somebody's got this.
Not easy. Looking up all the information. And everything has to be evidence-based now. You have to have evidence for everything. You just can't write what you want to write. You've got to back it up with references.
Do you think that book would be written now then if you were to be asked to write that again? Would it have to be done differently now?
Not really.
No.
One of the authors is one of my daughters, who is very switched on and is very good, and hopefully we'll take it over.
Oh, good. So it's updated regularly?
Oh, it's updated. We're just updating it as we speak.
Wow.
Really.
That's amazing.
It's in the 9th edition.
That's a fabulous. What a legacy to leave.
Well, yeah, it is. It's very rewarding.
Yeah. And for your daughter to be taking over, that must make you fairly proud that she's taking on the mantle.
Yes, well, Claire's very smart. She's grown up with it. She studied medicine. Would you believe I had to teach her at Monash? And that was one of the hardest jobs of my life.
Really? I would have thought she'd have had an advantage.
Dad, don't you dare ask me any questions.
Yeah, she's reasonably fiery.
Oh dear. Where did she get that from?
Her mother, of course. No, she's her mother's a great role model.
Yes.
And she says, my role model is not you, Dad, it's Mum.
That's good.
There you go.
Yeah, good. And so after you continued to lecture at university, and that was very rewarding. I understand that you're awarded the Order of Australia as well for your.
Well, that was for the books, really. The educational outreach.
That was a great achievement as well, something to be pretty proud of.
Yeah, we had a lot of support.
Yeah,
really.
Of course. Nobody does those things alone, do they? At home. And...
Just lucky.
Oh.
I was listening to Steve coming up, he talks about luck, and he's right. You get your lucky breaks.
I don't know about that. I think you make your own. I'm not sure about that. But anyway, so I think a humble person might blame luck, but I think you work hard for your achievements mostly.
It's all hard work.
Yeah.
Everyone around this room has worked hard too, and they've achieved.
Yeah.
But we've been fortunate.
What do you see as your and for you as well, your greatest achievement that you've had in your career or with life?
Oh, I think the family's number one, really. Yeah, it's number
Just
one.
so grateful that you can have 5 healthy kids and they've achieved it at tertiary level and doing things they enjoy.
Yeah.
So it couldn't be a greater blessing, really.
It's
a happy
nice
marriage,
to see,
really.
Yeah. To see your children growing up and having a good life is something to be really thankful for, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot of good fortune there.
And looking back on Neerim South, what can you see? I know you've only just got back here, But coming into Neerim South, what have you seen as being a big change, or do you feel an atmosphere change, or do you see things that you've liked that you haven't noticed before?
Well, just sitting here, looking out there,
Oh, it's amazing.
it's quite amazing.
Yeah.
I said to Steve driving down the road today, the change is incredible. And I see over here people I remember from the past. They haven't really changed.
No.
I was interviewed for one of the papers a long time ago, and they said, you've had a lot of jobs, you've done this, you've done that. What's been the best one? I said, my term in Neerim South was my favourite of all of them. It was a very special time. And not long after, I got a call from Jean Tilley, the old matron. She said, I was very pleased to read that because they were all an important part of it. It was the best time of our lives, as far as I'm concerned, being here at Neerim South, looking after the people who were great people, nice people, very clean people. I mean, you'd work in some communities where the people were a bit of a challenge, but not here. It was very smooth going, very nice community.
Well, certainly people that know you speak very highly of you both as well. I mean, you're a huge part of the town. And I think in the formation of the town growing up, you know, having the hospital and having two doctors as a team working here, you know, felt like we were growing up into a proper town.
That's why our heart bleeds when we hear of rural hospitals trying to be closed down.
Yeah.
Because they're such a valuable, important focus for the community and health-wise.
It certainly is.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking, isn't it? Yeah, and I think for the people that have worked so hard to keep the hospitals going over all those years, for them just to be shut, it's tragic.
I remember when I was a kid and you played tennis in the local competition, John. Do you recall that? You probably played against Margaret.
Margaret and Colin.
Together.
Both played, didn't you?
Colin didn't, but I did, didn't Joan?
Oh, you did.
And we won a grand final. Didn't we, John?
We did.
Should have brought the photo.
Very scary.
Yeah, Margaret was my second favourite player.
Who was
play
your
with
first?
ever. But this was the
I'm sorry, Jill. That's why they had a happy marriage. Well done.
We've got a weird success story. We've never been beaten as mixed doubles.
Wow, that's great.
We did play. We played night tennis, and astonishing, night tennis during the winter at Neerim South. It was never stopped by rain.
No.
So apart from, so you're involved in tennis, what other community bits and pieces were you involved in?
The swimming pool was built while we were here, so that was great. And we had a lot of community lunches, didn't we? Often up in the hall, no, beyond hall, the Methodist Centre, was it? And that was good. And the Christmas function at the hospital was always great. The show.
Yes.
And Father Christmas coming to the kids.
Yeah.
I was ashamed my 3-year-old was afraid of Santa Claus.
Oh.
So he buried his head in my shoulder the first time. After that, you know how Santa Claus used to come to the footy oval?
Yeah,
Yes,
on the fire truck.
Fire trucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they got used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just that 1 year usually, isn't it, that they're a little bit nervous about. And the footy, you were involved a little bit with the footy as well?
a little bit, yeah.
A few of the grand final wins were great, weren't they?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I was very naughty. I got in the hot water over that. The Neerim South players got oxygen at 3/4 time.
Essendon.
We had a couple of characters in the team. The priest and the state school teacher.
Yep.
They were characters. They demanded oxygen. And they got it.
Yeah.
And the opposition weren't happy. Nor the league.
Oh. Okay.
And then about half the footy team came to the mass straight afterwards, still in their footy boots, and there's blue and white everywhere.
Well, because Father Marnie, was he a trainer or a...
No, he played.
He played, that's right.
He got a broken nose for his trouble. Remember?
And that'd be Harry Woods you were talking about, the teacher, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Cooper.
And Cooper, that's right.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
So they demanded the oxygen.
I don't know who did. You were in charge of that.
Yeah, the priest got a non-accidental whack on the nose in the match. And I went out to the ground at 3/4 time and the nose was out here somewhere and I set it. And I told him afterwards, you had a broken nose. He said, I never had a broken nose. It was a beauty.
Oh, dear.
But the sad part about that was that evening I got called out of the church. There'd been an accident just down the road and 2 of our locals were killed.
Oh.
And that puts it into perspective. You have all the great times, but then you have the sad times,
Yeah.
which you have to cope with.
That, and the families that you know so well as well.
Yes.
That would be country doctors. Hardest part is that you know everybody so well, I guess. Whereas if
Very
you're,
hard.
And the
Yeah.
connections.
yeah,
Can you tell us about your family, how many children you had and their ages?
Oh, well,
Their ages.
pass over the expert on that.
Paul is 56, then Julie 55, Caroline 53, and then Luke 48, I think, and Claire's 39. And so all up we notched up 27 years at university.
congratulations. The government thanks you.
And so we're very grateful that they stuck out their courses and finished and are happily employed now.
That's wonderful.
It's interesting. Liz and Steve had 7 children. 5 children.
Yes, same.
Seems like 7 sometimes. Yeah, it's interesting.
I know when we first came here, I went to the big store next door, just up the road. Swafield's, was it?
Swafield's, yeah.
Buying up something. And Mrs. Swafield says, very good mountain air here. It's very good for making families.
The Swaffields were very gentle people.
Most people that we interview talk about the Swaffields. They were just such a big part of the district,
Very,
not just Newham South, but way out. I mean, they used to
very nice people.
travel to people that couldn't get to the town to make sure they had their groceries. They were just a big part of the district, for sure.
The people here are generally wonderful people. You get your few challenges, but that's... we had a clinic at New G, that was a challenge.
Yeah, there'd be some interesting
But
stories
very
come out of there.
It was interesting.
Yeah. What was your most challenging challenge out there? I know no names, no patches.
I don't know, I guess it was the calls in the middle of the night. With all the accidents that happened up there and the skullduggery and the assaults.
Yeah.
And they usually happen at 2 or 3 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
That was a challenge.
And plus it's such a wild road to get, I mean, back in those days that back road was quite scary at night. Yeah. To have to make your way down there.
And we didn't have a good ambulance service either.
No.
It was voluntary.
Yeah.
And but they did a great job.
Yeah.
But by the time you got to as we're talking about today with Steve, by the time you got there, the problems were magnified. You know.
Any more questions?
You commented about the change that's occurred in the place since you sort of left. What were the notable physical features of the town of Murtagh when you were there in those early years?
Well, in Newham South there was about 300 people when we came, and there were 4 churches, and I think 3 of them have been burnt down. So that was a big change. The school has developed a lot. I mean, there were 2 footy ovals at the primary school, and then the football oval next door. When kids came to Melbourne, one of them said, "Mum, where's the grass?" We took them to the school in Malvern. It was all asphalt. Where's the grass?
Yeah.
And they had a flying fox as well here, which, you know, they just love that stuff. Yeah. Of course, the pool came. Is that a really popular spot now?
It's still going. The council run it now, so I guess it's good that the town doesn't need to run raffles to keep it going. The council has taken it over, so that's great. People still use it. Yeah.
I mean, we had some extensions made at the residence where we stayed, so we've got new consulting rooms, which worked out to be an improvement. Yeah. So it's good.
We noticed that when we came, the waiting room at the clinic was the social hub of the community. We introduced an appointment system. Some people would come well before their timetable. You're sick, you go in first and sit there and talk for an hour or so. They still do that here, but certainly back in those days, there wasn't anywhere else for people to really meet except for the pub.
Well, we had no appointments, and so sometimes you'd have 17 people almost sitting in that room, and it really put the stress on you to get going.
You were wise to have an appointment system. Yeah, that was a difficult area about the managing the people and the appointments. We had a couple of serious problems. I remember once some people would just come into the driveway, but one morning there was a kerfuffle out front. The fellow who drove into the driveway was sitting behind the wheel of the car dead. And that was quite a dilemma. Another day, the council came in to drop a load of screenings and dumped it in the middle of the driveway where the people came in. So there are all sorts of problems with that. The old place had its problems up there. But Liz and Steve were pretty wise. They bucked the system and went independent, away from the hospital committee. So we felt sort of stuck with the arrangement with the hospital committee by renting that up there. So they're pretty smart. And look what they've got.
It's beautiful.
It's terrific.
Tell us a bit about your medical records, because obviously when you started here, they'd probably be a little bit like we found in the Western District, little cards with a few symbols on them that you couldn't understand. You had a wonderful record system. How did that sort of originate?
Well, Steve, you know very well you've got to have good records, and we did have the card system, which wasn't very satisfactory. In 1973, 72, we had the first World Conference of GPs in Melbourne. And we went down there, and one of the things they introduced was the record system. And there was a fellow there selling 1,000 records this new record system. So we bought it and put it into the practice. It was in a folder, remember the white folders? And it was terrific. It meant we could file everything and have it recorded with the letters from the specialists and with our own notes. And you could write little things on the notes, like if you had a family, likes to be called so-and-so, hates to be called Mrs. So-and-so, hates to be called by the Christian name. You could do that in the records the way we had it. You probably didn't see a lot of that, but there was a lot of little notes about the individual characteristics of people. And when you got it out to read it, it made a lot of difference. But the fact that these people turned up from America and sold this system was a real winner. It was a real big change for the practice management.
So when we did start working there, I think those folders were meant to be for individual patients, but we couldn't cope with it. We had one per family, which was quite adequate. And over the years, we have to keep the records for 7 years for adults and up to the age of 25 for children. So over the years, I've been culling, keeping, and I had a special glory box of records from the old days. Some of yours handwritten, those new records, interesting people, interesting problems, and that's probably the biggest thing that we lost in the fire down there. So.
But of course, working in a practice here, when someone walked in the door, you knew everything about them, really. So you wonder, why do I need records? But you do need records.
Well, I do have to say that John was excellent in his record keeping. We got a little book of all of the people who had hypertension, a little booklet of all of the people who had diabetes. It didn't take us long to know what people had wrong with them because they're very well recorded.
Well, thank you for that. You try your best. I have just had heart surgery and what I call reconditioning, a new valve, pacemaker, stents, and I had 5 doctors working on me at Cabrini, and they were all old students. So that shows you the influence you can have. I didn't teach them how to do this. I just taught them the basics, but I don't teach them the technology. Only because I don't know it.
Thank you so much for making the effort to come and see us. I know
it was lovely to.
It's an honour for us to have you here and to be able to record you for our little group. It's, I feel very privileged that we're able to do that.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
It's been a pleasure. It's lovely coming here today.
Oh, good. I'm glad you've enjoyed it.
So Julie's the president, chairperson of
The newly formed Near District History and Heritage Group. On behalf of them, we would like to present these to you. Just as a big thank you.
Thank you very
for
much.
all your efforts.
Thank you. This is terrific.
Thank you. We're trying to find something historic to give you to read, and it's a newly published last year book about the railways in the area, Newgee and beyond. So, thank you.
Well done.
Thank you so much.